I am so tired of coming on this podcast every single week and telling you to stop playing T.Y. Hilton. Like, just stop it.
Mikey needs help.
Mikey needs help.
I was like, if you don't have Jeff Wilson in here, and if you don't run it on first down, I'm gonna strangle you through that TV.
You should know better than everyone else. That fool tears you up when you plays you.
Yeah, but
Don't you want him on your team?
I have him at number 25.
Thank you. Fine. Todd's the reasonable one on this show.
I take issue with everything he said there.
Well,
I really do.
DeAndre Swift. He's going to break them tackles, son.
That's bold. That's bold. That's putting your nuts on the table right there.
Hey, there's the first time for everything.
Waxing poetic over here with Todd Diamond.
Dude's old.
So what? He's not as old as Brady, and you're jerking him off before the show starts.
I have Sutton in my top 10. I have him at number 9. Yes.
You know what? I'm just canceling the league. I can't do this with you guys. What is up, MHA owners? We're back once again to bring you the MHA Podcast. We've got some preseason games under our belt. Hard Knocks has given us the behind the scenes of those Dallas Cowboys, and we could taste the new football season coming in quick. It's Friday night. Eric Lansing, Mikey Renaud, Todd Diamond. What's up, fellas? How are you?
Fantastic. Ready to...
Yeah. I feel all right.
Mikey's feeling better, a little under the weather earlier this week. Todd getting crunk at a wedding. Eric's getting back to work now. Things are going crazy. But football, right around the corner. Did you guys check out the Hall of Fame speeches from the NFL Hall of Fame last weekend? Any stand out to you?
I liked Edgerrin James. I liked how he just talked about how, he started out with gold teeth and ended up with a gold jacket. I thought that was pretty cool. I did not see Peyton Manning's speech because I was at the wedding at the time.
Oh, that was at the wedding? But you didn't it was YouTube it or something later?
Yeah, I watched some of the clips of it, and very inspiring. I mean, it doesn't matter what Peyton Manning could be advertising, like a sandwich, and it could be inspirational, which he has. So come on, chicken parm. Come on now, nobody was like, oh, chicken parm, but Peyton Manning was like, endorsed it. You know it was good. So Steve Atwater's was pretty good. Steve Atwater's speech was pretty good. So all around there, I mean, there were some good ones.
I thought Steve Atwater's was okay. He just talked about mostly family. He didn't talk too much about his football career. I mean, he's a quiet guy in general, but I was hoping to get more football out of him. But I mean, you can't get mad at a guy who thanked everybody who was a part of his life. Mikey, what about you? Anything that stand out or one that you liked better than the others?
Yeah, I'm a sucker for the emotional ones.
Yeah.
So I liked Troy Polamalu's, and I liked Charles Woodson's.
Charles Woodson was so good.
Yeah, his was really, really good. Peyton seemed a little too choreographed for me. Like he was given a monologue for the Tonight Show or something.
I think he was trying to. That was his NFL commissioner interview. I think that's what it was.
And yeah, Atwater's was okay, but I don't know. His was kind of cookie cutter, I guess. I like it. Like when Polamalu, you could tell how honored he was, and just to be there, and talk about his career with the Steelers, and Charles Woodson, talking about his mom, and talking about all the life lessons that he learned over his career. I like that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I liked when he said when he was talking about his kids, he goes, "You guys are young and you haven't been through anything, and you see a grown man crying up on the stage, and someday you're going to understand why and how that's important." And that was kind of amazing. One thing that's always interesting to me is to see how the offensive linemen don't look like offensive linemen anymore. I feel like they go super big, they put on a ton of weight afterwards, or they're super skinny. Alan Faneca, right? You couldn't even tell he was an offensive lineman unless you looked at his video. Super skinny dude.
Well, I mean, William Rofe was always fat, so.
Well, yeah.
Or Larry Allen.
Yeah, he's always big. Mark Schlereth lost a lot of weight when he got out. He's kind of packed. I saw him in the audience, and he looked like he packed a few pounds on. But yeah, so pretty cool. I always like that stuff, just to hear the stories. And Calvin Johnson, a mental health advocate, especially in today's world. So a lot of cool. The one last thing I'll say before which I thought was hysterical, is when Peyton Manning mentioned Tom Brady and all the boos that came roaring down, and Tom Brady looks around and goes, "What did I do wrong?" And like, buddy, you know what you did.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, that was a very pro, Raider Bronco Colt crowds in Pittsburgh too. So of course they're all going to hate him.
Yeah, there was a lot of hate for Tom Brady, which made it a little better. We went and saw Broncos training camp a week ago. And you guys want to give us any of your thoughts from that training camp? Now, a lot of things can change in a week. And but what did you, from seeing something live and in person, Mikey, what did you think about? Anything stand out to you there?
I was hoping Todd would go first. I was hoping to hear his thoughts so I could crush
Todd.
him afterwards.
Go for it, Todd. What did you like about Broncos training camp?
I mean, Jerry Jeudy's going to be a beast. He was catching everything. Jerry Jeudy's just going to be a beast. I mean, he whatever he's doing, whatever he did in the offseason, he fixed his problems of dropping the football. So
he dropped a couple passes. Am I wrong?
He did.
Didn't he? I think he dropped a couple, didn't
he? I remember him dropping a slant that was like right in his hands. He was wide open, just kind of bricked off of him.
I'm not saying he's not going to be a beast, but I still think he's got the dropsies in his repertoire. But I hope he does fix that.
Yeah, but I think for the most part he's gonna. I mean, he just looks like he's ready to really take over to almost maybe even be the number one wide receiver. But we'll see how that goes. Obviously the biggest thing was the quarterback situation between Locke and Bridgewater, and we've talked about this millions of times. Through this offseason, that you should just go with Locke because, we don't know if this coaching staff's going to be here next year and whatever the case may be. So see what you got. And obviously, Bridgewater, like Mikey said, Bridgewater's the more safer play to some degree because he won't lose.
I said better. I said better play.
Well, you said safe too, but obviously both of them, had their moments. I mean, the one thing with Locke, I'll say, and I'll keep saying it to the end of time until he can maybe fix it, but dude's got to stop throwing off his back foot because there was a couple throws throwing off his back foot. Either the ball sailed or almost looked like it got intercepted. So he's got to stop doing that.
Mikey?
Well, I don't want to, give our audience, let's give them hope. The defense looked good. Receivers look good. Drew Lock, at least in the practice we went to, I thought looked like complete crap.
Not good.
Bridgewater, looked good for the beginning part of it, but then when they got to the end in the red zone drills, he crapped the bed. So, yeah, I mean, you're dealing with picking from two guys that are just kind of like, So, yeah, I mean, we'll see what they do in preseason, but from everything that I've been saying it, I just don't like our chances if Locke's the quarterback. I don't know. Everybody sees this potential, but I don't know. I just don't see it.
Yeah, he was not good. And for me, who have been pushing for Locke over Bridgewater, that was not a good day to be a Drew Lock advocate. He was definitely not good. But again, yeah, defense was good. I like Javonte Williams' speed on the outside. I still think Melvin Gordon's, going to be the starter, and those guys are going to split more reps. But I like what Williams brings in terms of explosiveness and so forth. All right, let's get into this show a little bit. We'll talk about the news. I'm going to go through these really quick.
To me, the most amazing thing about the news is that whatever goes on in the world, it exactly fits the number of pages that they're using in the paper that day. Interesting concept.
Because we got to finish up wide receivers here on this show. Saquon Barkley back to practice. That's good news. A lot of people are, especially for those in the first round, we're not sure where he's going to fall, but it's, I'm sure a lot of people are hoping that he gets reps in preseason. He may not, but at least he's back at practice. Guess who's hurt again? Hunter Henry. Dude can't stay healthy. Shoulder injury slowing him down this offseason or this preseason. So no word on when he's going to get back out there in the practice field. Cleveland being cautious with Odell Beckham Jr. probably no surprise there. A lot of people being very cautious with their stars, hoping they get to play. We talked about OBJ on the last wide receiver episode. Not sure if this is fantasy relevant, but Dion Lewis calls it a career after 10 years, played 8 of them, dealt with some injuries late in his career, but he had a couple decent fantasy seasons. But Dion Lewis, former Patriots running back, retiring here, just announced that today. Remember when Darius Geis was something, kind of for a split second?
Yeah.
Just can't get on the field, both with injury and stuff off the field. He was suspended 6 games for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy, dealing with some off-the-field stuff in 2020. So any hopes of – I mean, he's a free agent. He's not even on a team right now because of a lot of this, so not really an issue in terms of I wonder what he'll be fantasy-wise, but a lot of hopes for Darius Geis at one point. Rashad Bateman, the first-round pick by the Ravens, dealing with a groin injury and ended up having surgery, will be out 4 to 8 weeks. So maybe Marquise Brown moves up Mikey's rankings? Probably not, but we'll talk about Marquise Brown on this show. Last thing I have is Ramondre Stevenson. This is a guy that Todd crapped on in our running backs, or maybe even the rookies. But when we were talking about running backs and the Patriots, highly touted draft pick, boy, he looked good the other night. 10 carries, 127 yards, 12.7 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. Is he on your radar now, Todd?
That'd be still no, because that's preseason. That was probably against the third string defenses. No.
Production is production, right?
I agree with you, but we talk about this every single year with the Patriots backfield. You just don't know.
I'm sure you always see these guys kind of crop up during the preseason and have big games, and then why not throw a dart? I don't hoping that it sticks, and you don't know. This guy's could pan out to be something, but it's just one of those things. Yeah, you're right. It's a cluster F over there in New England, but if someone stands out, production is production. Okay, time to get back to wide receivers. We're in part 2, and we'll start off with some MHA trivia.
If my answers frighten you, Vincent, then you should cease asking scary questions. I'm going to take it.
You guys ready for this, Mike? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, before we get there was one piece of news that I don't know if you caught or not, but I was taking a look at the different depth charts around the NFL.
Sure.
And I found it quite surprising when I looked at the Houston Texans saw that David Johnson is the 3rd string running back right now behind Mark Ingram and Philip Lindsay.
He is correct. At least looking at the ESPN depth chart, Mark Ingram, the starting running back, the guy when we had the running back backfield discussion, I think we had it all. David Johnson, then Philip Lindsay, then Mark Ingram. Really didn't give him word-wise in terms of, he's old, he's past his prime. Number 1 on the depth chart. That's pretty incredible.
Interesting.
I think you have to raise him up in your rankings because of that. Nice find, Miguel.
Yeah.
Maybe you should be hosting this show.
No, I just when
I'm just trying
research,
to get someone else to type everything
things.
up. Do you see things?
I see things.
I'm just looking at their wide receiver depth chart, and they have Brandon Cooks, Chris Conley, and Anthony Miller. Good luck, Houston. All right, MHA trivia, and we're gonna play Family Feud.
Woo.
I figured we have some. I think we'll probably have a full show of wide receivers, but I thought it'd be fun to kind of talk about top 5 guys in different categories and wide receiver categories. And so I have 5 different categories. It's probably too much. So we'll go 2 and we'll probably go 3. And if I feel like it goes too long, then we'll stop there. But you guys know how to play the feud, right? So to kind of lead things off, I'll mention a category. You guys chime in with just by saying your name. And there's top 5 answers on the board. Whoever gets the closest to number 1 can play. And if they get all of them on the board, they win a point. If they get 3 strikes, then the other team will get a chance. All I have to do is name 1, and then they win the category. We know how to play the feud, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mikey.
Good answer.
There you go. All right, so let's go with question number 1. So again, if you wanted to chime in, say Mikey or Todd, your own name. Mikey, don't say Todd's name. That's going to confuse the shit out of me. So here we go. Question number 1. Top 5 answers on the board. Who are the top 5 wide receivers in touchdowns?
Todd.
Todd? Go
Okay.
ahead.
All right. DeAndre Hopkins.
Whoa. I just want one answer from you. I don't want you to give me all 5. You apparently don't know how to play the feud. I just want one answer.
Okay. DeAndre
So
Hopkins.
Hopkins is your answer, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, that's incorrect. He is not in one of the top 5. Mikey, what do you got?
I've got Devontae Adams.
Correct. In fact, he is the top name on the board. Good job, Mikey. Number 1 answer. In fact, Devontae Adams at 18 touchdowns. So with 4 answers still left on the board, do you want to try to guess those 4? Or are you going to try to make Todd guess them? And based on the fact that Todd didn't even get any of them, maybe it'd be better to pass. But that's totally up to you.
Yeah, I'll pass.
All right, Todd. So you have 3 chances to get 4 answers on the board. Devontae Adams is off the board. Give me another wide receiver that led the NFL in touchdowns.
Stephon Diggs.
Oh, I'm sorry. That is incorrect. Stephon Diggs, just kind of going down the list here, was 15th with 8 touchdowns. And you mentioned, who was your first answer? You mentioned Hopkins, correct?
Yeah.
And Hopkins, going down the list, was 29th with 6 touchdowns. So you have 1 strike after that first guess. Give me your second guess.
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill is correct. In fact, he was 2nd overall with 15. Good job, Todd. Give me another guess.
Calvin Ridley.
I'm sorry, Calvin Ridley is incorrect. Not a bad guess. He usually is up there with touchdowns, but last year was 12th with 9. So you have 2 strikes, 1 more. And if you don't get it, then Mikey only has to get 1 of the 3 that are left in order to win the point.
I'll go with A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown is correct. In fact, he's number 5 amongst wide receivers. These do not include tight ends. He has 11, or he had 11 last year. So good job, Todd. You continue on. Still 2 answers left on the board. Give me another guess.
I'll go with Keenan Allen.
Oh, I'm sorry, that is incorrect. That is your 3rd strike. Keenan Allen was around 16th with 8 touchdowns. All right, Mikey, there are 2 answers left on the board. You just need to get 1 of them. Can you name 1 of them in order to grab the first point?
I'm fighting myself between 3 different guys.
Ooh, I like it.
Well, 2 of them play for the same team.
Okay. All right. I think I might have an idea of where you're going.
Well, I'm thinking about these Seattle guys, but I'm just not sure. And then the other guy, I'm going to go with my gut. No, I'm going to go with Mike Evans.
Mike Evans is correct. He was 4th. In fact, he had 13 touchdowns. Good thing you didn't go with your Seattle thoughts. Tyler Lockett with 10. He was 8th. And then trying to find, I think you ended up with 8 or something like that with
Metcalf.
Metcalf. No, he was actually 9th. He also had 10. So not a bad guess. So
Yeah.
Adams was first. Go ahead.
The only reason I remember with Adams was because every time Tampa Bay got down in the end zone, they kept doing that fade route.
You're right.
And he would score touchdowns, but like he sucked otherwise.
He had 70 receptions, but 13 touchdowns. So Devontae Adams first in touchdowns with 18. Tyreek Hill had 15 touchdowns. The guy you guys did not get was Adam Thielen. 14 touchdowns, only 74 receptions, but boy, those touchdowns really added up for him. Then Mike Evans, and then A.J. Brown.
I would have never gotten Thielen. There's no way.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I just don't see him as a touchdown guy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was interesting because he's had a weird career. Some years he'd have good touchdowns and not really great on the receptions. And then some years he'd have great receptions, but not great on the touchdowns. So interesting, but he ended up being 3rd, 14 points. So Mikey gets the first point. We'll continue on with the feud here as this is going a little long, but all right. So we're going to go top. All right, you guys ready? So remember to chime in with your name. The Question on the board, the top 5 wide receivers in targets.
Todd.
Todd, go ahead.
Let's go with Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams is correct. He is 4th overall. So, Mikey, if you get one of the top 3, then you can decide to pay or pass. So, give me a guess.
Well, I think we talked about one of these on the last show, so I'm going to go with Stephon Diggs.
In fact, Stephon Diggs was number 1. Yes, he ended up with 166 targets. Mikey's paying attention to the podcast. I can appreciate that. So 2 answers off the board. There are 5. And so, Mikey, you can decide to play or you can decide to pass.
I'm definitely going to pass. I can get the rest of them.
Mikey got the number 1, but he's not where he's worried about the other 3. So, Todd, you got to give me a guess. There are 2 off the board. You only need 3. So go for it. Give me some guesses. Give me a guess.
Justin Jefferson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jefferson not on there. That's a tough one just because of Adam Thielen also in the mix. And they also like to throw over to Dalvin Cook as well. And I'm just trying to find him. Jefferson 18th with 125. So you have 1 strike. Give me another guess.
I'll go with DeAndre Hopkins.
Very good. He was actually 2nd amongst wide receivers, 160 targets. So right on the heels of Stephon Diggs. So you got another one on the board there. And now you have 2 left. Give me another guess.
I'll go with Tyreek Hill.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tyreek Hill not amongst those. He was 11th with 135. 2 strikes. 1 more guess.
AJ Brown.
No, I'm sorry. That's incorrect. AJ Brown. Scrolling down the list. Around 36 with 106 targets. All right, so Mikey, you have a chance to steal here. So you have Diggs. Let's see. No, I'm looking at the wrong list here. Diggs, Hopkins, and Adams have been named already. Number 3 and number 5 have not been mentioned. So give me a guess.
I'm going to guess Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley. No, I'm sorry. He did have 143 targets, but not in the top 5. Congratulations, Todd. You get the point.
Woo!
So here are the top 5 in targets. And number 3 is no surprise that no one knew it. This was a surprising answer when you kind of go back and look through it. So Diggs with 166, Hopkins 160, Allen Robinson 151 targets. If he could get those touchdowns up, he'd be an elite wide receiver. Well, I mean, obviously have a different quarterback this year now, but interesting to see. Devontae Adams with 149, and then Keenan Allen, 147 targets. So those are your top 5 wide receivers. So we're tied 1-1. So now we are going to go to top 5. Let me see. I got a couple options here. So let me look through these real quick. Let's do this by points. So, top 5 in points. Go ahead and someone chime in.
Todd.
Mikey.
All right, Todd, go ahead. You chimed in first. So, this is top 5 in point scoring in our league.
Devontae Adams.
Very good. Number 1 answer off the board. Good job, Todd. Do you want to play or do you want to pass?
I'll play.
Okay. So, as we go through the list here, I'm going to just bring up the points from last year. And Devontae Adams, 291 points. Todd, you said you're going to play. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. So give me a guess.
This one's got to come up with Stephon Diggs.
Correct. Stephon Diggs, number 3 in points with 247. Good job. Give me another guess.
And then this one's got to be, because he put up a lot of points, but Justin Jefferson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Justin Jefferson, not amongst the top 5. He was actually 6, 9, 10, 11, 12th with 199. Give me another guess. That's 1 strike.
I'll go with Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley is correct. He's number 5 on the list with 213 points. Todd, you only need 2 more to take the game.
All right. I will go with... if you put up Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson, no. I just kind of mentioned he only had 6 touchdowns, but he was going 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12. He was number 12 with 197. So you have 2 strikes. Give me another guess.
A.J. Brown.
I'm sorry, A.J. Brown is not on there. A.J. Brown, we go 12, 13, 14, 15, 16th with 189. He only had 70 receptions, had 11 touchdowns, but only 70 receptions. All right, Mikey, a chance for you to steal and win this game. I think you're down 4-1 overall on the season in MHA trivia, and you can cut it to within 2 if you can give me one of the last 2 on this list in terms of wide receivers and points scored last year.
I'm going to say the dude that you said was second in touchdowns, and that's Tyreek Hill.
That is correct. Tyreek Hill, who had 15 touchdowns, 87 receptions, close to 1,300 yards, 255 points. Mikey, you win. Congratulations. How you feeling?
I've got confetti. You just can't see it.
Oh, God.
Yeah, confetti. You need some music makers. You need something that people can get excited about. But the top 5 in points. Adams, you got 291. Tyreek Hill, 255. You guys got Stephon Diggs, 247. DeAndre Hopkins, who had 115 receptions. That'll definitely bring up that point total, 216 points. And Calvin Ridley with 213. So there's the feud. And so some wide receiver talk. We'll get right into it here. Some of these guys had a down 2020 campaign. We're going to ask our so-called experts if they predict better things for him here in 2021. And we'll start off with DJ Moore, a guy that a lot of folks were incredibly high on last year and didn't have the season that a lot of us thought. I mean, I wasn't huge on him personally, but he did not have a great 2020. He played in 15 games, but only had 66 receptions, did have close to 1,200 yards receiving, but only 4 touchdowns, 118 targets. Mikey, give me some of your thoughts on DJ Moore. A guy, man, a lot of the experts were like picking in the second round, late second round, early third round. I think went, at least in some of the talks, not everybody was that high on him, but there was a lot of people that were high on him. Went 4th round, I think, to Joe Vaccarelli, unfortunately. And are there better prospects for him here this year?
I mean, I'm definitely not as high on him as I was last year. I was with the experts and turned out to be wrong. I think the biggest problem is like for the numbers he gets, whether it's receptions or yards, he just hasn't been a big touchdown guy. I mean, you look at the last 2 seasons, it's just 4 touchdowns apiece. And I don't know if that has to do with the subpar play at quarterback. But, I mean, you're getting Sam Darnold in here, so how much can you really trust that that's going to boost it up that much?
Yeah, agreed. One thing that stands out is Curtis Samuel's gone. He had some touchdowns last year. He's now in Washington, so that maybe helps his prospects a little bit. What about DJ Moore? Todd, how do you think about him, and would you prefer to draft someone like Robbie Anderson, his teammate, over him?
I'd actually Robbie Anderson. I'd actually prefer him over DJ Moore. Obviously, both of their touchdown totals, aren't like jumping off the pages by any means, but I think DJ Moore just doesn't. I don't know. Robbie Anderson's more of that, going down the field and big playability. And I think that's where the touchdowns could come more into play. I mean, obviously, he had 95 receptions last year and 1,096 receiving. But, I mean, be honest with you, I don't want to draft either one of them. But if I had to choose, I'll choose Robbie Anderson over DJ Moore. I mean, who knows? DJ Moore might surprise us all and, have kind of like a Stephon Diggs type kind of rebirth situation maybe. But if I'm going to choose between the two, I'll choose Robbie Anderson over DJ Moore.
Who would you prefer to have, Miguel?
Well, I'm surprised that Todd didn't bring up that Sam Darnold was Robbie Anderson's quarterback for 2 seasons.
That's right.
So, I mean, there's some chemistry there. I would still go DJ Moore. I think I've just seen more. Anderson probably had the better year slightly, but I don't know. I like DJ Moore's skill set better, so I'm going to go DJ Moore.
DJ Moore finished 28th in our point scoring last year. Anderson finished 20th. Now it's just because he had 95 receptions on 136 targets. Teddy Bridgewater, as we've mentioned before, and not a guy's going to go downfield too much. So he relied on Anderson, especially when you don't have Christian McCaffrey. And I'm sure the Christian McCaffrey has held the touchdowns over some of these guys. But even with him out last year, they didn't score a bunch of touchdowns. So we'll see how Sam Darnold fits in with these guys. I would also, I think, prefer DJ Moore just for the fact that his upside is higher. I think if Sam Darnold is an upgrade, as the reason why they traded for him, the Panthers traded for him to come in, and if he's going to be better, I would go for DJ Moore over Anderson. I think Anderson had quite the year. I mean, for someone who had Robbie Anderson, it was great to have those 6 to 7 receptions, but he never did a lot with them. Like to have 95 receptions and barely over 1,000 yards, the upside's not big for him. Let's keep moving down here. Let's talk about some Tampa Bay wide receivers. Chris Godwin, another guy that came in with such fanfare, being with Tom Brady. And Antonio Brown obviously wasn't really in the conversation when people were talking about Chris Godwin's preseason fantasy hopes and stats and predictions. And then he eventually came in. We didn't know what we were going to get from Gronk, and didn't really have the season we thought he was going to have. As I scroll up to my list here, he ended up finishing 28th in our scoring with 146 points. He averaged about 12 fantasy points per game. Todd, what are some thoughts you have on Chris Godwin? Can he get back to, I don't know if there's ever get back. He had a great year 2 years ago. Can he get back to that 2019?
I mean, obviously, I think so. Obviously the biggest thing with him is the injuries. That's what, he missed 4 games last year. So that definitely hurt him a lot, because I thought, Godwin was going to be Tom Brady's Julian Edelman, kind of his, safety blanket. Obviously when Gronk came into the picture, changed a little bit, but I think Godwin can definitely get back to that. It just has to stay healthy. Obviously he was my 2nd round draft pick last year. Just because, again, he's attached to Tom Brady. I say that with, on every podcast with certain players, when they're attached to certain quarterbacks or certain players, makes their value go, skyrocketed. So I think Godwin can definitely have a rebound year this year. Obviously, as I said, it just has to stay healthy. If it wasn't for if he wasn't hurt last year, again, can't play the what ifs to the end of time, but if he wasn't hurt, I think you said he had 65 receptions, only 7 touchdowns. If he wasn't hurt for those 4 games, he'd be in double digits. I promise you that.
Yeah, 2 years ago, quite the season for Chris Godwin. Mikey, you just look at the receptions and how Tom Brady likes to spread it around. Mike Evans had 70 receptions, Godwin 65, Gronk 45, Antonio Brown 45 receptions, Leonard Fournette had 36, Scotty Miller had 36. So is this just an offense where it's going to be one guy or another guy? It's one guy one week, another guy another week, or can Chris Godwin be that number one that's going to be kind of top 10 fantasy relevant?
Well, and let's not forget that O.J. Howard's coming back from injury, and Gio Bernard's there too. So, there's a lot of riches and plenty to go around there. I'm a little bit concerned because I feel like Godwin, even though he was, hurt for a couple games, for me, the concern comes in is I think Antonio Brown maybe eats into his share a little bit. As he gets comfortable, I think Antonio Brown may be a little bit underrated. And I hate saying this because he can go off the rails and do something stupid. But, the dude had 45 catches and almost 500 yards in half of a season, in 8 games. Started picking it up late in the season. He had 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. So, I don't know. I just feel like none of those guys breaks out, and they're all just kind of steady.
Kind of steady. So maybe not top 10 worthy. Would you prefer, so with that whole Antonio Brown could eat up more stats, how would you rank those 3 between Evans, Godwin, and Brown?
So currently I have it Evans, Godwin, and then Brown. Evans because of he gets touchdowns. That's what it is. But I don't know. I've just been looking at it, and more I'm starting to like Antonio Brown a little bit more.
I'll ask you guys. Don't go. Just give me like the one. I'm gonna compare. Like, who would you rather have? Just give me the player. Don't go deep into anything, but just some of the guys that are around Chris Godwin in terms of. I'm on Fantasy Pros, and they have their list of ranking of wide receivers. Would you prefer to have Chris Godwin or CeeDee Lamb?
I say CeeDee Lamb.
Todd?
I'll go Godwin.
Okay. What about Chris Godwin or Julio Jones?
That's Julio for me.
Still Godwin, just because.
Well, I'm not asking for it because I just want, want the back end. I just want your quick answer. Last one. Chris Godwin or Keenan Allen?
Oh, it's Keenan Allen, no question.
Yeah, I thought that might be a little bit too high of a guy I was reaching for. Same for you, Todd?
Yeah, Keenan Allen.
Okay. The next one I had on my list was Juju Smith-Schuster. I felt like we talked about these guys. Do you guys figure we already talked about him and Deontay and Claypool?
Yeah, we definitely did.
All right, so we're going to move on there. Here's a couple of wide receivers with a brand new quarterback, and as we talked about in our quarterbacks episode, a better quarterback. So Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, now with Matt Stafford with the Rams. Mikey, rank those two for me and just give me some of your quick thoughts on those two guys. Are they going to be better this year with a better quarterback?
Yes, they will be. Right now, I have Woods on a slight edge over Kupp, but God, they're so similar. Woods, and I think Woods finished ahead of Kupp last year, but man, it's so close. Like they both get volume. This is going to come down to whoever is better in the red zone. And so right now, I'm giving a slight edge to Robert Woods.
Todd, rank those two, and who do you like? Are we going to see better numbers from these guys here as opposed to what we saw last year? Mikey was asking, or just kind of hinted, did Woods finish better than Kupp in our point scoring system? Yes, he finished 11th with 193 points. He had 90 receptions, 936 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns, which is probably something you can't expect every year. And Cooper Kupp finished 26th. He had close. He talked about being close. He had 92 receptions, 974 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So give me some of your thoughts on those two guys with that brand new quarterback.
Yeah, both of their stocks have definitely. I mean, when the news came out that Matthew Stafford was going to the Rams, I mean, Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp had to be doing flips or backflips and handstands all at the same time. Yes, we always talk about with Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp's going to get more receptions, and Robert Woods is going to get more of the touchdowns, more of the bigger plays. But Robert Woods is definitely starting to get in that realm of not just big playability and you're racking up the touchdowns, but getting the receptions and getting more of the targets and everything like that. And especially with Robert Woods in the past, or even last year and the year before, they've used him, coming out of the backfield, just kind of trying to spread him all over the field as well. So, yeah, I agree. I mean, Robert Woods, who I'm going to draft first, Robert Woods or Kupp, it's going to be Robert Woods. I think Robert Woods is definitely starting to turn that corner, and now you got him a Pro Bowl quarterback now. All right. Ding, ding, ding. I think we might have a winner.
Ding, ding. We might have a winner. We don't know who that winner is, but they're both really great wide receivers. I don't think you could go wrong with either one. Mikey mentioned who would be better in the red zone. Just looking at the red zone targets last year, Cooper Kupp had 5 to Robert Woods 3. One thing that Matt Stafford does well is go deep, and I think Robert Woods is better in that category. But we'll kind of see how it all plays out. But I like these guys. I think if we had the same quarterback, I'd be a little down on them. But now that they have a quarterback that maybe can utilize what Sean McVay wants to do in that offense, I think those guys can get back. I mean, Cooper Kupp, had that 10 touchdown season just 2 years ago. He's averaged about 93 receptions the last 2 years. And Robert Woods, this could be a dangerous offense. And we'll see kind of how that running game and that offensive line stands up to the test of the 2021 season. So let's continue on here. Wide receiver battles. Man, there's some interesting battles going on this year. We're going to start off with Cincinnati, who might have the most intriguing after doing some numbers. I think I've changed my tone, but I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say. So with Cincinnati, they have Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase. And Mikey, how would you rank those guys? Or let me just ask you this way. Which one of those guys would you prefer?
So through my rankings, I believe I had Boyd first, Chase second, and then Higgins third. This is an interesting situation because Boyd is like the more reliable guy, but there's so much potential with Jamar Chase that I think if I was sitting in that draft room and both were sitting there, like I might have to take the stab at Chase because there's just that, potential upside that could smash Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Todd, what do you think? I know you're a big Jamar Chase guy. Is that the guy you're drafting first amongst those three?
Absolutely. The potential that he has, and I mean, granted, I said he didn't play in 2020, but what he did in 2019, and especially in that offense, and the fact too that it's helped. He's going to a team that has his quarterback that he played with. So if that doesn't help his case, and talk about chemistry, because we talked about, Mikey mentioned, Robbie Anderson and Sam Darnold. It's kind of the same situation here with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. So I'm drafting Jamar. I mean, it wouldn't even mattered. I'm still drafting Jamar Chase over those other over Higgins and Boyd.
I came in kind of with what Mikey said. I have initially had Tyler Boyd higher in my rankings because Boyd over the past 3 years have averaged 122 targets, 81 receptions, and 971 yards. And you figure that's the safe. I don't want to say safe guy. That's good numbers. The touchdowns aren't super high, but he was on some bad teams. And now you got Burrow that's going to come in, and he played well. He was actually the 18th ranked wide receiver through the first 10 weeks when you had Burrow in there. However, looking at what Higgins did in the week 3 to week 11, he was the number 11 wide receiver. Had on a full, I guess, all season. He had 108 targets, 67 receptions, 908 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He's 6'4", 215. And I'm always so hesitant on drafting rookie wide receivers early. And the thing that you mentioned, like he was out an entire year. Not that I'm saying he couldn't come in and be fantastic. I'm sure he stayed in shape and maybe even threw with Joe Burrow in the offseason. But I don't know. I'm kind of thinking of putting Higgins up there and rolling with him just because his upside's so high. And I mean, it's so tough to say because they used the 5th overall pick to get Jamar Chase. And you want him to come in and do things right away. Henry Ruggs, I think, was the 14th overall pick, and they didn't know how to use him. Not that I'm saying the quarterback situation is correct. I'm just saying that there were 2 highly drafted guys. We'll probably get to Ruggs in a little bit. However, just what I was saying, Higgins was the number 11 wide receiver from week 3 to week 11, and they may have a pretty good rapport. So I'm kind of interested in Higgins. It's interesting. We're all a little bit different, but go ahead.
I was gonna say the thing, and that's a good compare, and that's a good example, kind of a good example you said with Higgins and Jamar Chase. Obviously, both drafted very high, but the difference between the two is Chase is more of a physical wide receiver. Like he'll go across the middle. He is a little bit taller than Higgins. Higgins was just more of, the comparison when he came out was more of Tyreek Hill. Just kind of use him any way you can. Shut him out.
Higgins is 6'4". Jamar Chase is 6'1". So Higgins got a little height on him.
He does, but the thing with Higgins with the Chase is the fact, yes, he's only 6'1", but dude's got the speed too, so that helps too. Not saying that Higgins can't, Higgins isn't, I'm not saying Higgins is a slow by any means either, but Chase is just he's just a different kind of animal. You can be 6'4", and it was like, oh, 6'4", and just and thinking, oh, he's going to dominate. That's not always the case. There's plenty of wide receivers that aren't 6'4", 6'5", and are 6'1" or around 6'2", and dominate more than wide receivers that are 6'4". But that's a double-edged sword with that.
You know who was a different kind of beast?
How's
Corey
that?
Davis. Where's he at right now? Now, he didn't have a bad 2020, but a lot of people were high on him too. Not that I'm saying that they're the same guy, but
yeah, no.
I'm always, for me personally, hesitant to draft a guy that has not done it in the NFL over a guy that, and it was 1 year, but for a guy that has done it. And then you have Boyd, who's been doing it for a little while now. But it's just interesting, 3 guys on one team. Mm-hmm. And if Burrow takes even a next step, it even looks a little better this year, plays full 16, maybe all these guys have a chance to reach 100 targets. Let's keep moving on here. Let's go to another incredible wide receiver battle, and it's the Jaguars. You have DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, and Marvin Jones Jr. Todd, who do you like out of that trio?
I like DJ Chark. Just more of the sense, kind of going back to what you were saying with Higgins and Boyd, that they've done it a little bit longer. So I'd probably go Chark. And Marvin Jones, I was really never high on anyway, even when he was in Detroit or he was in New York.
Why not? He averaged 9 touchdowns a year when he was with Detroit. But you don't like 9 touchdowns. Okay. Go ahead, continue.
It was just more about, I don't know, maybe not as consistent, because obviously, sometimes he would have really good games, then he'd disappear. But again, I'm just not a Marvin Jones guy. I'd rather go with Chark, who, I don't know, maybe more of his. I like more of his upside going forward a little bit more than Marvin Jones, because we've seen Marvin Jones ceiling a little bit more. So again, I know you're gonna say, well, 9 touchdowns, what's wrong with that? But yeah, nine touchdowns are great, but I like.
I mean, who needs fantasy points, right? Yeah, I mean, he's just averaged 8 touchdowns the last 4 years, and not to mention the Jags brought him in and paying him $7 million a year. Sure, he's 31. That may detract some folks. He's a little older than the rest of them, but I mean, he's production. It's right there. And then, Mikey, who do you like out of those 3? Marvin Jones Jr., Laviska Shenault, and DJ Chark.
So I like Marvin Jones, and it's exactly for the reason that you're saying. Like, some dudes just have a knack for finding the end zone, and he's one of those guys. Like, I want that reliability where he's going to get in the end zone. And I think it's especially helpful to have like a veteran guy like him, especially for a young quarterback like Trevor Lawrence. So yeah, I like Marvin Jones.
And it's amazing. A lot of people don't like Marvin Jones, including Todd, but just in the experts and so forth, they're not big on him. Just some things on DJ Chark, who's been a good player the last couple of years with some bad quarterbacks. I mean, 2019 was probably his best season. He had 73 receptions on 118 targets, a little over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns, and that was with Gardner Minshew and Nick Foles. So maybe a new quarterback comes in. I think he's got the most talent. He's probably the more athletic individual, and he's probably going to go first. I'm not saying Mikey's going to draft him first. I'm just talking about amongst the other owners. That he may go first, but the better value might be Marvin Jones. Laviska Shenault's not someone to be ignored either. 79 targets in 14 games, 58 receptions, 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. And that's a pretty stacked trio. If Laviska can get better, I think that's a talented wide receiver core. If Trevor Lawrence is anything that people are saying about him, boy, he's got some weapons in front of him, especially with Travis Etienne, who apparently can catch the ball as well. Okay, we're not quite an hour, but we're getting close. Quickly, you guys, Mikey first, between the 49ers, two guys here, Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. Who do you like better, Miguel?
I've got Ayuk ahead of Samuel, but it's not by a lot. I mean, Samuel just had his injury problems all of last year, which kind of held him out, but I'm going to go Ayuk.
Do you like their prospects at all? I mean, with the quarterback situation going on over there, are you a little hesitant on drafting any of those guys?
I am very hesitant because, like, I don't know how much they actually trust Jimmy G and how long he's going to be in there. I think they could easily, if things go, sideways, you could have Trey Lance in there pretty early in the season. So, yeah, that situation scares me.
Yeah, not super high myself. I just don't know what's going to come out of it. They like to run the ball and defense first, and I think Brandon Ayuk's got all the talent in the world. If I was going to draft someone, I would draft him first, but I'm definitely not high on either one of them. Todd, do you prefer Ayuk over Samuel like me and Miguel?
I actually prefer Samuel just because of his little bit more versatility. Because sometimes they do put him in the backfield a little bit. His upside and his skill set a little, I like a little bit more than Ayuk. Per se, but again, the injury is obviously is obviously a concern with Samuel, but I like Samuel's versatility a little bit more than Ayuk.
All right, let's go to the Raiders situation. I'm not sure if this is any more exciting, but you have guys like Henry Ruggs III, John Brown, Brian Edwards. Todd, out of those three, who do you like? Who stands out? Who should fantasy owners be excited about? I mean, the Raiders do like to throw the ball, and if you feel that they're not going to be a good team, they're going to have to be playing from behind, and they can chuck it. Carr can definitely throw that ball a lot. So, obviously Darren Waller's there. He'll probably get a majority of the targets and a majority of the touchdowns. But wide receivers on the team, we saw Nelson Aguilar put up some decent stats, not great stats, but he had 8 touchdowns, so that's fantasy worthy out of the Ruggs, Brown, and Edwards camp. Who do you like?
And actually, this one might surprise. I would think maybe Ruggs just because he'll have a little better. But I like Brian Edwards a little bit. Obviously, he was drafted in the same year that Ruggs was. He's a little bit. He's not a speedster like Ruggs is, but he's been getting a lot of good reps coming out of training camp. What I've been hearing. Last year only had 11 receptions last year, but obviously the whole Raiders team was back. Like you said, Aguilar was getting a lot of the attention, but Brian Edwards is kind of an interesting one because Ruggs you're going to put more in the slot. I'm not saying you can't put him on the outside, but you're going to put Ruggs more in the slot, and Edwards is more the outside guy, but he's a little bit taller wide receiver. ESPN's got him, 40 receptions, only 3 touchdowns. I think that might be a little bit more. I think he might get a little bit more than 3 touchdowns. Say at least 6 or 7 at least. So give him, 3 or 4 more touchdowns. So I go with Brian Edwards. I'm gonna maybe find my, James Jones diamond in the rough.
James Jones. We're never going to hear the end of that.
You're not.
Mikey, I know a lot of things I'm reading. They're saying Ruggs was used incorrectly. A lot of people are saying they should put him in the slot, more shorter routes, get him in space. That's where he makes his money. He averaged close to a little over 17 yards per catch, which means they sent him deep, and that's not his game. Do you think that they could put him in the slot and he's fantasy worthy, or are you more of a John Brown guy? I don't think you were high on him last year, but I mean, he was never really on the field last year either. What do you think about that trio?
Pass.
All 3. Forget it. Next. Darren
Hunter
Waller.
Hunter Renfrow. There you go. No, I really don't like any of these 3 guys. Probably won't draft any of the 3. But if you're telling me I got to pick, I'm going to go with Ruggs because, he was a top 20 pick. So, I mean, obviously he has the skill set. You saw what he did at Alabama. So there must be some sort of, they must have been using him wrong because he didn't look anything like he looked then. So I guess I'm willing to take a chance on that. But yeah, I really don't like any of them.
Yes, I would actually go Brown. So we'll all go separately. And the only reason I say that is because when Brown's on the field, he is fantasy productive. Just 2 years ago, 115 targets, 72 receptions, 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. And he missed a couple games that year. So to be able to put up those numbers with a young Josh Allen really shows that he has the potential, and they brought him over and paid him. And Edwards is kind of more of that prototypical. He's 6'3", 212. But dealt with injuries, but even didn't get on the field when he was healthy. I mean, he played in 12 games, but only had 11 receptions. He had some injuries, but couldn't get past Nelson Aguilar and Hunter Renfrow, and not a lot of upside there. So if I had to pick a guy, it would be Brown. All right, we'll go to another not sexy situation in the Baltimore Ravens. We talked about Rashad Bateman with the injury. He's going to be out for a while, so this might be easier to discuss. But, Mikey, you've never been a Sammy Watkins guy. You're also not a Marquise Brown guy. So maybe this is another pass. But, well, what do you think about those two guys?
Yeah, I mean, you're giving me like a bunch of stuff that I really don't like here. But I'm going to go with Marquise Brown of the three. He's the big playmaker, the down-the-field threat. Kind of broke out again in the back end of the season against some pretty bad teams last year. Sammy Watkins is injury prone. I just never been high on him. I'm not high on their passing game as a whole. Give me Marquise Brown.
It's like offering you yogurt or bananas. Like, what would you? I'm sure this is not an easy decision to make. Go ahead, Mikey. Were you going to say something?
No, I'm just saying I don't know. Like, none of these guys for me, if I had any of these guys as my starter, I might as well start researching for next season.
And Mikey said he's all in this year, so stay away from the wide receiving core in Baltimore. Todd, top guy from the Ravens. Should anybody draft any of these guys?
I mean,
that's a no.
Yeah, I mean,
if there's that high of a sigh from Todd, probably not.
Yeah, because
Todd loved Marquise Brown.
Yeah, I did, and then the fantasy football god said, "This is what you're gonna get from Marquise Brown. Absolutely nothing. You're gonna get goose eggs some weeks from him."
Yeah. I think I would go with Brown if I was going to draft one of these guys, and I'm not totally anti-Marquise Brown. Yes, he had 6 touchdowns in the last 6 games, but he only had one 100-yard game all season long. He also had just 6 receptions in a game twice. Like, that was a season high with 6 receptions. He had 6 games with 2 receptions or less, 10 games with 4 receptions or less. So not a high upside. And unless you were figuring Lamar Jackson is going to get better as a passer, then maybe Marquise Brown. I mean, look at Sammy Watkins, and this is going to go. And maybe I'll just ask this question next. We were talking about with Sammy Watkins gone, can McCole Hardman kind of take that next step? He finished 53rd in points, but I was looking like, well, what's Sammy Watkins do as the number 2 wide receiver with Kansas City? Well, here are his stats the last 3 years. He averaged 11 games because he's injury prone, 66 targets, 43 receptions, 537 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So maybe that doesn't sound too exciting for Hardman, but what do you guys think? And do you think Hardman can be any fantasy relevant? Can he have any fantasy relevance heading into 2021, Todd?
No, I think it's just going to be more targets for Hill and for Kelsey and Allaire. They'll just throw him the ball. Nope, not even close.
Same for you, Mikey, just not having Hardman this year.
Yeah, like I feel like if you by now you would have known, like if he was the guy, like he's gotten plenty of opportunity to showcase that and be the second guy when Watkins has been hurt, and you haven't seen it. Like there's always been like, yeah, all right, it's his chance, and he just hasn't taken advantage of it.
Yeah, last year for Hardman, 16 games played, 41 receptions on 62 targets, 560 yards, 5 touchdowns. but had 5 targets or less in 11 of 16 games. And the upside may not be there, but that's something to keep an eye on if he starts racking up some targets early in the season. Okay, so last wide receiver battle before we get out of here, and that comes from the Colts system. And we heard the news about Carson Wentz. We don't know when he's going to show up, so maybe this is not thrilling to talk about either, but we're going to mention it. And they have a couple of guys to mention, in T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman Jr., Zach Pascal, or Paris Campbell. So, Mikey, out of this bunch, is there anybody that could be fantasy relevant?
Sure. I feel like, you did this just to smite me because, you know how much I hate, like, T.Y. Hilton. So I'm not going to say him. I'll go with Michael Pittman on this one. He had a pretty decent end part of the season, in his rookie year. So I think he can possibly carry that on and be okay going into this year.
Todd, we saw, as Mikey mentioned, even in a playoff game, Pittman had 5 receptions for 90 yards. Paris Campbell missed the entire season, although the one game he played in, he had 9 targets, 6 receptions, and 71 yards, and then he got hurt. Pascal and T.Y. Hilton came on strong. If owners had to choose one, who would they choose? Who should they choose?
Who they should? I'd say Pippen, Michael Pippen,
Scottie Pippen. I'd draft him over those guys.
I know. I think we all would. I think it's going to be Hilton because people are going to go with the bigger name, but it should be Pittman Jr. instead. That's who they should be drafting.
Are you sure? I mean, Hilton finished strong. 27 receptions, 435 yards, and 5 touchdowns over the final 6 games.
Do it, Eric. Do it.
No, I just like ribbing Mikey because I knew if I said that, Mikey would be like, come on, Eric. That was at the end of the year when it didn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. So if Wentz isn't gonna, and if Carson Wentz isn't gonna be ready, at least, yeah, no. I even too. I'm not even touching any of the Colts wide receivers with a 10-foot pole either. But you have to choose one. So
I would probably choose T.Y. Hilton.
Of course you would.
Now, based on where Pittman's probably going to go, I feel like Pittman is going to go earlier than all of them. Mm-hmm. However, value-wise, I'm going to wait on T.Y. Hilton. We don't know. Go ahead.
I was just going to say probably, and I'm more than likely I probably won't have any of them just because the Colts are such a run-heavy team. So,
and who knows who the quarterback's going to be for a while as well. All I know is T.Y. Hilton destroys the Texans. So if you do have him, make sure you play him against the Texans. For whatever reason, he lights them up. All right, so last thing before we go, guys, board bet time. And we'll do another rookie wide receiver. Who's going to be the highest scoring rookie wide receiver in our points league this year? Mikey, go.
All right, because I already know who Todd's going to go with. I'm going to go contrarian.
Ooh, and nice.
I'll go with Jalen Waddle.
The Alabama guy that plays for the Dolphins now. Go ahead.
Yeah, just, I think Tua is going to take a big leap forward this year. So if that's going to happen, he's got Will Fuller now. He's still got Devontae Parker, but I look for Jalen Waddle to be a big part of that.
Todd, is it Jamar Chase as Mikey requested?
Yep, Jamar Chase all day, every day. I
might have to agree. I went contrarian the last couple of times, but I think just based on what I've seen and the potential, and man, is that too much pressure on Joe Burrow? I was looking at that Warren Sharp stuff, and while he was having a good season, he wasn't having an efficient season. So I mean, for those to have those 3 guys and the excitement that comes with that, can Joe Burrow throw 500, 550 times and make all those guys relevant? I mean, Joe Mixon is still there. He's a little older, dealt with some injuries last year, but can Joe Burrow come in and be a top 10 fantasy guy?
I think so, because I think with the potential that Jamar Chase can bring, I mean, that is your playmaker. Jamar Chase is going to be the playmaker. They're going to find every way possible to get him the football. I mean, still spread it around because, like you said, I mean, obviously with Higgins and with Boyd, and Joe Mixon, but Jamar Chase is just on a different level, and I think they're going to find every possible way to get him the football, to get Jamar Chase the football and get him involved. And I think Joe Burrow's going to like that, every week.
All right. I mean, I agree. I mean, out of the rookie wide receivers, I'm going to put Jamar Chase just to kind of hedge and maybe try to get one, because I know I went contrarian on a couple of those other ones. But, man, we're putting a lot on Joe Burrow, I feel. And he did have some pretty amazing fantasy games last year. I don't know. We shall see. But that'll finish up. And there's obviously a ton of wide receivers out there, but I felt like we got through a good portion. I mean, we're talking about some Baltimore guys in Pittsburgh, or some Indy guys. So maybe we have reached the end of the wide receiver fantasy spectrum, but it's important to talk about him because if you're number one wide receiver, there's a chance you can put up some stats. So you guys ready for tight ends next week?
Yeah, bring them on.
Yeah.
Yeah, tight ends next week on the MHA podcast, and we're not. There's only so many to talk about, so maybe we'll do a mock draft as well, and I'll set that up for you guys and keep going. Fantasy season. I think we're all starting to really get going on our rankings. Dylan even sent me a text like, "Hey, I want to look at my team from last year," and I think people are really starting to get into it, feel it, especially with the games going on, and we went to training camp and leagues are starting to open back up, and we're in it, guys. We're only a few weeks away, and September 5th, draft day for us. I can taste it. It tastes good. It tastes like yogurts and bananas, right, Miguel? Delicious.
Hopefully not for me.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, gentlemen, thanks for hanging out with us on a Friday night. Hopefully we'll get this out here the next day or so, and then we'll get back to some tight end talks. So thanks for tuning in. Mikey Renault, Todd Diamond, Eric Lansing. We'll see you next time on the MHA Podcast.